Like that, because you know, like the last one, we were just at a cut. It seems very like there's a big area, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I know.
It's the nature of doing this. Like, you can't soft light a room without washing out the screen.
Yeah.
So you have to make a beam of light. It's the nature of these kinds of things.
Just let everyone know about our 5-minute warnings. Your last chance to go grab some snacks, some drinks before we get rolling here tonight. 5-minute warning.
So, let me show you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like this.
In post, usually that makes sense. And you can make it as warm or cool as you want. But I can't expose it like this now because by underexposing it, so you overexpose it and then pull back down. Makes sense? I know it doesn't look right here.
Yeah. No, okay, that's fine. That's fine. No.
Sorry? No, I'm going to. Yeah, but that's May, June, right? Early 10 days, May or short. There's hardly any, like, you can walk up other than now Yeah, well, exactly. All the staff is going to come and sit in? Is all the staff going to come and sit in?
I don't know if actually, most of them moved so that someone was,
Russell will ask people to,
Yeah.
or just to sit where we
Yeah.
want them to sit.
yeah.
Okay, well, they're going to sit in the left. In the center row. Is that coming?
Sitting in these instead, because we have it super loud in our shot. It's just the back of your head. Is that okay? I'm just trying to do that. Oh, no, fair. But I think you're going to start, so I think that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so welcome everybody to the Rossland Museum and Discovery Center. Thank you guys so much for coming out here tonight. I want to start off the evening by recognizing that we live and work on unceded Sinixt Tumulao, or homeland, if you're not up to date on Sinixt dialect. And being that we're here on Red Mountain, hoping you guys can take away with you guys today that the longer term name for Red Mountain actually was Camarkin. So if you can remember that one and share that around, you'll be a part of kind of helping Sinaiaks have resurgence in their own territory. And before we kind of get started with the event tonight, I just want to let everybody know that we do have a territory sign unveiling next Friday from 4 to 6, a ceremony at 5 o'clock, where we'll be unveiling a territory acknowledgement that recognizes this space as Camarkin, and then Rossland right now. It's going to be a pretty incredible sign. I can't wait to have everyone see it. And then we'll also be having our Canada Day celebrations here as well, so you won't want to miss that. But I don't want to take up any more of you guys' time with all of this administration side of things. I just want to basically bring Elodie up here to come talk to us here today. So she's the coordinating biologist for the Kootenay Community Bat Project, if I remember that correctly. She's got a film crew with her, so she's the subject of some kind of TV show. So we've got a celebrity in the audience tonight. And without further ado, I'd just like to invite Elodie up here. Everyone do a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. We're happy to be giving this presentation, and I hope at the end you will be loving bats even more than you already do. Okay, so I'll be talking about bats today. So we're going to go through different points, so starting why bats are interesting, why they're important, and what kind of threat they're under, and what you can do to help. So, bats are interesting. So I will ask you guys, who has already seen bats before? Everybody, right? Were they flying, or just lying, or hanging somewhere? Has anybody seen bats from close up? Both? Great. Aren't they cute? So let's start with the beginning. Bats are nocturnal. That means they live at night, right? So they come out at dusk, and they'll go hunt, and they'll come back at dawn. And they more or less sleep most of the day. But sometimes, if you go close to a colony, you might hear them chatting a little bit. They don't sleep all day long. And bats are mammals, so you probably also know that. They are not part of the birds, even though they're flying. So they are warm-blooded, they have fur, and they give birth to live young. And they're part of a group that's called Chiroptera. So it's not part of the rodents, which is a different group of mammals, but they are their own group. And Chiroptera means winged hands. So chiro meaning hands, and ptera meaning wings, so winged hands. Bats fly with their hands. If you check, so those are called codex, so symbols in all three mammal group. No, not mammal, sorry, animal group. So you can see the birds, most of its actually wing is the arm, while the bat's, half of its wing is actually made out of fingers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the sum. I'll just go back very quickly on this group. So there's 5,400 species, approximately, of mammals in the world, and 1,200 species of bats. So basically bats are the second biggest group of mammals. So those are rodents, those are bats. So they're like, what did they say, 20%? Yeah, 20% of all mammals. So big group. There. So I was talking about giving birth to live babies. So bats have tiny little babies that are born without hair. They're called pups, like little pups. So they grow to their full size between 3 and 6 weeks. So that's the gestation time in the belly of the mom. And within about 6 weeks, they'll be able to fly. That's their goal. And so female will give birth from beginning of June till end of June, depending on what type of summer and spring we had. Most of the bat species we have in the world will only give birth to 1 baby per female per year. Some species might sometimes have twins, but that's not the general rule. So only 1 baby per female per year. So they're not having huge amount of babies each year like rodents, for example. And often that's something that scares people that have bats, for example, on their property, that some of the population will explode. It's not going to happen. Take a long time for them to have more population. And bat is the only mammal that can truly fly. So you might think in your head, well, there's a flying squirrel. They're actually not flying. They're gliding. They don't use their wings and actively fly. And they have an incredibly long lifespan for a small mammal like that. Some little brown bats have been seen to live up to 30 years. They've been caught and vended and then caught again 30 years later. So that's how they figured it out. So this is really long for a small animal like that. Kind of like, yeah, I can read it quickly if you guys can read it. So it says, do you know what I fear most about old age? No what? Incontinence. Wrong position. And they do something pretty cool. So I'm going to talk later about bats doing hibernation. But they also do something called torpor, which is like a mini hibernation. So it's less than 24 hours long. So if, for example, if the weather is really bad, really cold, really rainy, there's no food, it's like not worth using energy to stay like active. They'll go in like a mini hibernation. You're going to slow down their metabolism and temperature, and cool down the temperature. That way they won't use too much energy. And so the life cycle of a bat. So I'm going to start with the winter. Oops, sorry. Yep. So in the winter, like I mentioned, bats hibernate. So meaning they'll find somewhere to hide during most of the winter. It needs to be somewhere cool, dark, with kind of a constant temperature. So cold but not freezing, but cold enough that they're not going to wake up too often because they don't want to get active. And some kind of moisture needs to be present, otherwise their wing might get really, really dry. It's kind of a fragile membrane. So then after the hibernation, in the spring, depending on the species, they'll wake up between late March to even early mid-May, so it can be a big difference between species. They're going to wake up, find a new roost. Sometimes they have different roosts in the spring than the one they're going to use in the summer. Female will start their gestation in the spring, so they're pregnant when they come out of hibernation. And I mentioned before, they'll be given birth sometimes in June. Some species will create what we call maternity colonies, so kind of like that, and that's it. Sorry, summer take. It looks like that. So lots of bats grouping together, giving birth together. So those maternity colonies are only made out of females, mostly. Sometimes you can find males, but it's mostly females. Not all pregnant, but most of them, and they'll give birth together. They'll help each other. Some bats will even kind of play the doula role and help giving birth to other moms. Once the pups are big enough to hang by themselves in the roosts, they're going to have some kind of nannies, and the other go hunt, come back, nurse, and they kind of change their roles like that. They're very social animals. And then after the summer, the pups will fly sometimes between, mid-July to mid-August. And often the whole colony will move on to a cooler place. Most of the time, those summer roosts will be very hot. And once they don't need the heat anymore to keep their energy high, they're just going to move on and go to a fall place. And in the fall, that's when the male and female will meet again, and that's the mating time. So female will actually be in the fall, but they're going to stop their pregnancy for the winter and start it again in the spring. So how many kind of bats we have in BC? So some little hints there. We don't have fruit bats, so you don't see any bats eating fruits. I have sometimes people calling me saying, I found a bat. I try to give them fruit, but you want to eat because they don't like that. We don't have vampire bats either, so those ones are only in the southern hemisphere, actually only in South America, and there's only 3 species. So I mentioned there's 1,200 species approximately in the world, only 3 are vampire bats, so not that many, even though that's what people remember when using bats. So what do the bats here eat? So we have 15 species of bat here in BC, and they all eat insects. They're called insectivores, so they just eat bugs. It goes from little flies, mosquitoes, to bigger moths, even some pollen insect that won't necessarily fly. Some bigger bats will even eat centipedes, like pretty big things, or small scorpions, so for some of them, so big stuff. So we have 15 species of bats in BC. Here in Kootenay we have about 12, depending where, it's a bit less sometimes. But yeah, a big part of the species we have them here, so we are very lucky, you know, in diversity. So on this picture, this is a fringe myotis. This is a horn bat. That's the biggest species we have here in the Kootenay. It's about 40 centimeter wingspan. When their wings are, not the body. And this is the long-haired bat. I'm going to show some other pictures. Those are 4 other species. Little brown bat, most commonly seen, probably if you haven't seen a bat, very likely it's either this guy or this one. Little brown or human myotis. Those are the 2 most common species found in buildings or around human-made structures. Those 2 species are also using human-made structure pretty commonly, but they're doing less big maternities, so they're a bit less often found. So that's the Townsend big-eared bat and the big brown bat. So in those 12 species of bat we have in the Kootenay, those 4 are the most commonly found in buildings. The other species will use more natural features, so I think I'll talk about that later. But they use different structures, not very often human-made structures. So this is another sample of species, California myotis. That's one of the smallest species we have with the small-footed bat. This is northern myotis. This is a pallid bat. This actually is not the one we have in the Kootenay, that's a BC one. This one is the one that eats little scorpions. And it's not in the Kootenay, but in the more like desertic, hotter area, Lillooet region over there. That's the only species that we hear echolocation. I'm going to talk about the echolocation, but that's the only species that has a frequency low enough that our ear can hear it. And then 4 more species: silver-haired bat, eastern-haired bat, pretty cute one. Looks like it has like a little lion or something. Long-legged bat and the western small-footed. That's the other smallest species we have here in the Kootenay. So yeah, to compare smallest, biggest bat. So hoary bat, the biggest one we have in the Kootenay, small-footed, one of the smallest. So the hoary bat weighed about 28 grams. It's about like the size of a small hung chocolate bar. Wingspan, like I said, 40 centimeters, and the little brown bat is like 6 grams, so it's like 1 loonie approximately, so even less than a loonie. And they're like this, quite small. And their babies, when they're born, they're the size of a kidney. Tiny, but compared to the size of the bat, actually very big. Like it can be almost half the size of the bat. Almost a third, not quite a half. It's a lot. Okay. So where do bats live? Bats need 3 things. They need food, water, and some kind of shelter. So some areas that really like, wetlands, close to lakes, like everywhere there's some kind of body of water, because they need to drink. So yeah, wetlands are an important part to protect, like important habitat for bats. And the way they actually drink water, they're not going to land close to that body of water. They're going to fly and just drink while flying. So it needs to be wide enough. You cannot just put it like in a bird pool or something. It's not going to be enough. They need something bigger. And it needs to be kind of still water, like big rivers not going too fast would do the trick, but like smaller creek will necessarily be the place they can have a drink. So they need food. Like I mentioned, bats here in BC eat only insects. Yeah, and they can eat all kinds of insects, but also arachnids and scorpions. So those are not insects, right? Just checking. Yeah, this is not just super cool pictures of bugs and the way they're hunting. So bats use a super cool tool called echolocation. So basically, it's like a sonar. They're gonna emit a scream, a call, and this is gonna bounce against everything, any obstacle, prey, and that way they will be able to see in the dark. So they can see when it's pitch black, thanks to that tool. They do that like dolphins, and humans obviously copy that. And that echolocation, they can actually, with the echolocation, they're able to say the speed of the whatever is moving, if it's moving or not actually, in the speed. Even some kind of structure, if it's something soft or hard, and size too. And then they'll adapt their calls to that. For example, if they know it's something small, they're gonna make maybe different frequency and a bit faster, like to really kind of figure out what's there. So I have a little video. Working? Of bats catching insects. And the way they catch them, that might actually see first. Not working. Okay, I have it. It's done. Not sorry. There. And there's no sounds. Sorry about that. Well, sounds not there. Normally you could repeat. But so yeah, you'll see a bat catching. You actually see something? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds not working. Yeah, it sounds fine. Sorry, it's too bright. It's really so it's just, it's pretty bright. Oh, it's the light there. Yeah, super cloudy. Yeah, it's too bad we didn't put this thing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, but a few times they actually let them, like, it escaped, so they didn't catch it every single time. Most of the time.
Pretty efficient.
Yeah. So yeah.
Looks like they caught it with the
Yeah.
wings.
But I was like, oh, wait. It's working now.
I thought the bird was in
It's still no sound. Okay. Oh well, we saw that. So yeah, they actually don't catch them with their mouths, but with their wings or with the tail. So they use them kind of like an net, right? It's kind of easier to get it. And because they're calling all the time, even until last minute, they can't really catch with their mouths. They probably could, but I guess that would, break the precision a little bit. So they just also catch with their wings and then bring it to their mouth. Yeah, pretty cool. So, yeah, I missed a picture when they have little teeth. So we can maybe see another bat, but they have really, really pointy teeth, and that reason is because they have to bite through the insect's exoskeleton, right? So it's pretty hard. So they have really, really good pointy teeth. And some bats have super large ears, and they actually can hear their prey fly or even crawl on some little leaves. So they're not just echolocation, which is already a great tool to see anything, because they also hear really well. And I didn't mention that, but bats are not blind. They see really good too. Like, not in the dark, pitch black, but they can probably see better than us in like dusk or condition, like when it's not quite dark. And I didn't mention that, but the fruit bats, for example, the ones that live where there's trees with fruits all year round, those are bigger bats, and those ones don't do echolocation. Those are the only ones not doing echolocation in our bats. Yeah, they don't really need to, right? They find a tree and then they just stay in the tree and eat it. So bats need shelter. So I'm going to talk about all the different roost bats are using. So they can roost on the barks, in woodpecker holes, in cliffs or rocky crevices, outcrops, underground, cave, mines, even some little holes sometimes, like in the dirt under roots of trees or something. And they also use buildings. So like I mentioned, 4 species of bat commonly use building. The 8 other species we have in Kootenay will use more of those structures. So you can see here, that's under a bark, and that's in a little rocky crack. That's a maternity colony inside someone's attic. It can be a lot of rats sometimes. It can be noisy and a bit smelly. That's the problem sometimes. So yeah, for example, in the Crescent area, that's our bat biologists made for bats to live in. They're giant bat boxes, really big. And so males and non-reproductive females. So I talked about those maternity colonies, but where do males go? So they tend to use more like colder areas. They don't need to stay warm like females do to keep their energy up, so they don't use too much energy for feeding their babies, and they use the ambient temperature for that to stay warm themselves, not their own energy. Males and non-reproductive females don't need to do that much, so they tend to stay by themselves or in a small group, and they go where it's a bit cooler and sometimes not well hidden, like above a door or something, or like it's where they should be, so they're not disturbed. Okay, and so you might have seen or heard, or you might have a bat box. So this is a tool that we used to use quite a lot. We're kind of backing up a little bit from it. So lots of people want to put bat boxes to attract bats, but it doesn't work that easily. First reason, not many species use bat boxes. So there's 6 species that use bat boxes, but most commonly only 3. So that's not many, if you count out the 12 that we have here. And they don't just move into a bat box because there is one there available for them. For one, they need a new place or an additional place to their network of roost, or for example, if they live in an attic, they might not need a bat box there. So people that want to get their bats out of some structure, for example, in the roof or in an attic, and they just put the bat box, it's never going to work like that. They might use both, but they're not going to leave the attic to go in the bat box. They need to be sealed off from the attic first, and then they'll move to another place, which could be a bat box or somewhere else. And yeah, you can see that picture here, that's from under the bat box. So there's multiple chamber, and more chamber is better. We try to say at least 3 or 4 is best, so that it gives more temperature for the bats to choose from. The one the closest to the sun will be warmer than the one in the back. That way when it gets really hot, they can kind of go in the back. Or when it gets cooler, they can come more in the front. So that offers more choices for them. When there's only one single chamber, it can become dangerous if it gets really hot, because the bats have nowhere else to go to. And the new things we've been asking people that exclude their bats is to put more than 1 bat box. Ideally more than 2 even, so that they can be one very warm, that maybe full sun, one a bit further but not too far, that might not have full sun all day long, so that they can actually choose the best temperature for them. Find a microclimate that's the best for that specific day, because sometimes it's hotter, sometimes it's cool. So where do our bats go in the winter? So I mentioned most of our bats hibernate, so they'll go in caves, mines, somewhere where it stays cool. But 3 species actually migrate. They don't stay here for the winter, or partially only. So those are our 3 species. So the silver-haired bat, the hoary bat, and the eastern red bat. So those 3 species actually don't really form big maternity colony. Those 2 actually, most of the time, just stay by themselves, hiding in a tree, just like on a branch like that. They don't hide necessarily into something. And those 2 bats go pretty far south, sometimes as far as Mexico, or southern states of the US. And they unfortunately have a lot of things on their past that's kind of blocking them, that I'll get to later. This species are a bit special because she migrates also a bit south, but we've seen some individual migrating west. And we have some northern individual, it seems, that come and hibernate here in the Kootenays, or in some places in the Kootenays. So they do kind of hibernate like locally as well. And I don't know if you read a bit things about bats, but this bat seems to be singing also. It's the singing bats. They've seen that some of her echolocation was doing some kind of singing pattern. So kind of really cool bat. Oops. So now let's go to the next part. Why bats are important. So bats actually are one of our most biggest night insect flying predators. So they eat a lot of insects, like a lot. Not just mosquito, but they're definitely eating mosquitoes, but not only, some like other stuff. Each bat kind of specializes on some things, or they like a certain size of prey. And so yeah, they're an important part of their food web. So like in the chain here, the sun makes the cucumber grow, the cucumber is eaten by this bug, this bug is eaten by a bat, and the bat's eaten by something else. So owls are one of the main predators for bats. There's also cats, and weasels tend to be also pretty good at getting them and killing them a lot. They're also important with the nutrient cycle. So the bat guano, that's how I call the feces. It's a bat manure. It's really, really well a good fertilizer. It actually can be pretty pricey. People actually pay money for that to grow some specific culture. So yeah, it's a really good fertilizer. So it's important to have bats also just for the general, natural cycle. And in other part of the world, some bats do a lot of other things. Like, for example, some pollinate flowers like bees. There's many different fruits, tropical fruits that are pollinated by bats. For example, also the agave, for the tequila, that specific plant used to be pollinated by bats, but now humans figured out how to do it, which is not great because they tend to use the plant before they flower, so the bats cannot have the nectar. I mean, lots of things we do, they're not great for that stuff. And then they also spread seeds. So lots of fruits, tropical fruits are eaten and then spread while they do their business. And then it will grow from there. So they can disperse quite a lot actually, and very far. And they also contributed to medicine. So this is specifically the vampire bat. So most people probably think that vampire bats suck blood, but they don't suck the blood. They actually bite the animal, so it will be big mammals or small mammals, or I'm not sure. Birds too. Actually, they also bite birds, and they have in their saliva an anticoagulant that will allow the blood to just flow out of their prey, and then just leak it. They're not going to just keep their teeth in. They just bite, inject their saliva, and then just leak the blood that's flowing out. And so scientists have been inspired to use that substance for anticoagulants. It's called vampirin. And yeah, bats are also just part of our world, culture and tourism. I mean, you probably know at least one of those figures. Probably this one the most. Everybody knows Batman. And, vampires in general. So now we'll talk about bats are in trouble. So 8 of our species in BC are listed at risk federally or provincially for different reasons. The first one, white nose syndrome. You might have heard about it. So it's a fungus that grows on bats and has basically an effect on them during hibernation. So this fungus will grow only where it's moist, dark, cold. So basically caves, underground, and while the bats are sleeping. So it will start growing on their nose, on their wings. The bat's going to wake up, try to clean themselves, because bats are really clean like cats. They like to groom themselves. So they're going to wake up way more often than they should. And they're basically going to starve. They're not going to make it through the winter because they'll burn all their energy waking up over and over, or just die from hypothermia. And so this fungus called, I'm going to say it just once, Pseudogymnoascus destructans, so in short we call it PD, it's causing that white nose syndrome. And this has been imported, so it started from here, here, in 2006, and since then it's been spreading. So it came from Europe, probably a caver or someone that went in a cave somewhere in Europe and then brought it back. And then it's been spreading ever since, pretty fast actually. And in 2016, it jumped from somewhere here to here, and it's spreading slowly from here. But I don't know if the way we have our caves, the temperature, something makes it spread a bit less fast. It's still spreading, but less fast. And here too, in 2022, we found a sample of bat guano with the fungus in it. We haven't yet found a dead bat that died in it in BC, just there's the presence of that fungus in the guano. But last year, when we did samples again, we couldn't find it anymore. So it hasn't spread really far, it seems. So for now, we're very lucky, but we know it's going to come at some point. So we're not sure if maybe there's a difference in the size of our hibernation group, maybe temperatures in caves, something that makes it spread a bit less fast than on the East Coast. We definitely don't have those, they have really giant caves with thousands and thousands of bats hibernating in them. We don't seem to have that in BC, and I guess maybe down in Washington State it's less as well. And actually some of our bat species, we don't even know where they hibernate yet. Like little brown and Yuma bats, we have never really found them hibernating, which is kind of cool. Like it's a mystery, they just disappear. But they don't seem to migrate because they're not on the migrating trajectories. They've never been caught. So yeah, it's still kind of cool. We don't know, there's so many things we don't know about our bats. So yeah, anyway, whiteness syndrome, really bad thing happening. Not yet really present, but yeah, close, very close. Another kind of threat is just the fake news and myth around bats. Like, they get caught in your hair, they're super dirty, full of disease, they're blind, they're vampires, they're flying mice. So all those things are false. You don't get caught in your hair. It might have happened, I don't know, sometime in history and it became, a thing. They're not dirty, like I said, like cats, they groom themselves a lot. They're pretty clean. They are carrying diseases sometimes, and they are a carrier of rabies. Like all mammals, they can get rabies, and they're a carrier, but it's only 1% or less than the bat population we have here. So it's really small, less than 1%. They're not blind, they see really good. Only 3 species of vampires, not even here, not even on our continent. And they're not like mice, they're from the same group. One other big threat is habitat destruction. So for the species that live in buildings, often, unfortunately, they get evicted for lots of reasons. Sometimes it can be really problematic. The ground was really smelly and it's in the house. Or somehow they make it inside the living area, not just in the attic where no one goes, but also down. Yeah. Or there's renovation that needs to be done, and the roof needs to be redone, and bats are there. So there's a lot of reason why people need to evict bats. So we're trying to help them to do that at the right time and the right way. Other habitats being destroyed due to land clearing or wetland destruction, drying, urban development, lots of houses destroying, forests, trees, wetlands, all that. Wind farms, so that's the big one for migrating bats. They go through wind farms a lot, and for some reason they seem to be attracted to the pulse of the windmill. We're not quite sure yet. They tried lots of things, putting deterrents, acoustic deterrent, but it's so big it doesn't even cover the whole thing. There's different things people are trying to convince those wind farms to maybe reduce the use when it's not windy enough, because bats don't fly when it's super windy anyway. So maybe by choosing when they turn them on, it might help. And lots of things work on that. Roadkill, sometimes they get killed by, especially highways. And cats are other predators, but cats, that's something is due to humans, obviously. We have so many cats around, and they're really good at catching bats, and they're really good at just killing them. They'll find a colony, if they can reach it, they'll just kill most of the colony, even though they're not going to eat them all, just because it's a game. Cats like to play with their food. And so, how can you help bats? So, you can share what you learned today and explain how cool bats are. If you ever encounter a bat though, never touch it with bare hands, leave it alone. Well, this presentation includes kids, so if you're a kid, tell an adult. You can move it with a box or gloves if it's necessary for the safety of the bat, or for the safety of people. And then call the Community Bat Project or the local, that's me, local Community Bat Project. You can help survey for whiteness syndrome, PD, so if there's a bit more bats anywhere around, so there might be more death happening for other reasons, like cats, disease sometimes, or just other predators, or some other kills like wind farms or cars or other things like that. Or they get stuck sometimes also in sightings, and their wings get caught and they just die. When possible, leave them where they are. When it's safe for people and for the bats, just leave them alone. That's the best that can happen. If an exclusion has to happen, there's a certain time when to do it. So that's like the cycle of the bat's life, hibernation, and then they come in the spring, they have pups, pups learn to fly, and then they kind of leave the roost again. So this time here is the most critical where we shouldn't do anything, which is kind of problematic because renovation happens in summer. So we ask people that need to do anything or work or exclusion to do it in the winter if possible, or beginning of spring. They can install a one-way door, same at the beginning of fall, which means that they kind of cover the entrance. The bats can still slide out or sneak out, but they wouldn't find the entrance back in. So for example, like a sheet of plastic attached on the side on top of the exit, so they'll be able to just slide down, but then the plastic will be sort of flush with the wall, they won't be able to crawl back up. So those are ways to exclude in a time where work is still possible. In September, it's not too cold, it's snowing normally yet. Same in May. So yeah, to avoid the period where pups are at work. And then help protect and restore habitat. If you have a big property, you can add a little body of water, keep dead trees standing if they're not dangerous, or at least the big trees. Even live trees can be roosts for bats, and there are some loose barks and even cracks for woodpecker holes. When possible, keep cat indoors. It doesn't have to be the whole day, but at dusk and dawn, that's when the bats are the most sensitive, when they exit and go back in the roost. So if you can let them go out at night even, just try to keep it in during the most critical times. You can adopt a roost and bat counts. So there's unfortunately not many roosts here to count in Rossland, but yeah, other places in the Kootenay Trail, in Trumps, Montrose. There's some places where we count bat colonies, so it's a pretty fun activity. Everyone can participate. Got families, kids, friends. You just sit in front of the roost with a clicker, and you just count whatever is existing. It starts about half an hour after sunset, so it kind of moves during the summer. Midsummer, it's kind of the latest, but if you count earlier in the spring, like let's say beginning of May or more like in August, it's a bit earlier. Ideally, the bat count is 4 counts, 2 counts when the pups are not born yet, or at least not flying, and then 2 counts once the pups are flying. So we have how many moms, and then how many pups are born. And can be bat champions, just go outside in summer, observe, try to make your community a bat-friendly community. So that's the whole procedure I won't explain today, but there's lots of things the town can do to make it bat-friendly, and then you get a super cool little logo saying you're bat-friendly. And so what the Community Bat Project does, so those are 3 main activities. Supporting landowners, so anyone that have bats on their property, that have concerns, questions, want to do an exclusion, want to attract bats, more bats, anything like that. I'll go try to do visits, or at least a phone call or emails, try to help. Increasing awareness with education, so lots of presentation, we hold some booths at markets, things like that, to just show you're here. And we gather baseline data, so that's the bat count mostly, and the white nose surveillance. So there's one more thing I didn't say here. Now we are collecting water in the spring to survey for white nose syndrome. So when the bats come back for hibernation, they start grooming themselves, and whatever they're leaking, they'll eject. And if there was fungus on them, they'll be in there one. So we're going to collect that and send it to a lab and test for the white nose syndrome. So far, nothing last year. So hopefully nothing this year. So yeah, just want to thank all my supporters and partners. Without them, this project would not be here. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.
Yeah. So what has Rossland, have they done anything to encourage the bat population?
None that I know of. There's 2 bat boxes that were installed in, what's the name of that park? Yes, yeah. So, but they're not used, I think. I've visited them 2 years or 3 years ago. I don't think I've ever seen them. Yeah, no. But like I said, sometimes just putting a bat box, if it's no need there and the species that actually use them are not looking for a new place, and they're just not being used. But they're good for education purposes. Just having a sign under them explaining what it is helps. Putting awareness to bats. There's not like many colonies. There's only one that I know about that was kind of a big number. Still, I think in the building where it's supposed to be. I'm not going to say because it's private property, but not as many as in other towns.
I heard somewhere that bat boxes can be dangerous if they're in the wrong location because the bats can get too hot and die. Is that the
Yes,
truth there?
we haven't seen too much of that in the Kootenays, but when their summers have been really, really hot, we've been paying a lot of attention. And actually in the summer, we don't collect dead bats all the time, but when there's like a mass mortality related to a bat box, we'll collect to check why they died. And yeah, in the Okanagan, for example, they tend to always paint the bat box dark, but they're starting to say no, don't paint them or paint them even white so that it gets really less hot. But that's why we switched to not just one box, to more in different aspects, and that way bats can move. They can carry their babies to a certain distance. So if they have something just like a few meters away that's cooler, they're just going to move there. Or even bat box back to back. Sometimes bat boxes are on the pole, or even on the building. You can just put them, in a corner. One will be south, one will be east, and they can just potentially crawl on the other side, or like a very short distance. So just that could be a big difference than just like one bat box full summer. Yeah.
You said the gestation that they mate in the fall,
Yeah.
and then the babies, the ones are born in the spring.
Yeah.
So it's a long gestation.
No, they're actually just fertilized in the fall,
Okay.
and they just stop, put it on pause, hibernate, I guess,
Okay,
inside as well. And they just start this gestation again in spring.
So it's about how long?
3 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
I like bats, but I had one coming up my stairs and just catching insects, but it makes a mess on my glass doors, so I hung a sheet at the bottom just to stop it from coming in there. Is there any other effective way, or is that
So it's an outside stair?
outside stairwell? Yeah, so I don't mind the sheet, but
There's different things. Those situations are probably like the same situation in the night roost. I didn't mention that there's 3 different types of roosts, actually 2. There's day roosts and night roosts. In the day roost family, there's maternity roosts, or just male roosts. That's when they stay during the day, and most of the time will be inside something hidden. But then there's the night roost, which is it can be just a wall of a structure, or anything. They can just hang out there in the middle of the night. They'll go hunt for a bit, and then around midnight, 1 in the morning or so, they'll have a break. Sometimes even just to digest some big prey, or just have a break. So they'll hang out there, poop a little bit, and then go away. So lots of people are like, well, I see poop, but I don't see anything, and they're not going in anything. It's just because they just hang on the wall. So for those situations, you can try. They've been trying lights, like a spot that turns on right on that spot, and most species won't like the lights. Some do, so it kind of depends. Some people have tried a little fan that just blows air on that spot. Putting something but in your case it's flying, it's not necessarily landing.
I think it did. My partner stopped seeing it, but I think it's coming in because the bugs fly up and hang out there, so I think it's coming in. But it kind of sprays on the glass, so you see that.
Well, some other things people have been trying is like a little tinfoil or something like that moves with the roof.
I
pretty
tried,
easily,
it
and then
didn't work, but
Yeah.
the sheet, I just found the sheet at the bottom, and
Yeah.
it seems to be okay. So
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That the guanos, the problem, the mess they make while they poop, or the urine on the windows.
Yeah.
You can try a little shelf on top of the windows. That way it will stop on the shelf and not go on the windows. So I've tried that.
I'm not trying to harm it, just.
Just avoid having it come back. Any question?
Goes up yours. It doesn't go up anything else.
Maybe it's going up somebody else's now.
Maybe you got the sheet over it.
Yeah, I just pull it up.
So can you give us just a couple things that you can do to encourage bat population?
So basically to increase bats, you can just, make just a general habitat more favorable for all species. So some plants, native plants better. If you want to try to attract bats, you can try nocturnal blooming plants, which will attract moths or some other insects from, night insects. So the bats will come then. I think there's somewhere on the website a little brochure of ideas what you can do in the garden to favor bats. Yeah, just having, if you, depends on the size of the property, but if you have a big space, you could, you know, like maybe a little pond or something, a little body of water where bats can drink, keeping trees, for sure, we like trees, yeah. Yes.
How big would be a bat's territory? Like you're saying they need water, so if, I think we're looking at improving the situation in the yard and you have the option of building a pond in your yard, how far afield will they?
So, there's different studies on that, but it seems the body of water, it doesn't need to be too close, but in a certain, you know, maybe a few K, maybe 1 or 2 max, like in area. But they can fly really far to get what they want. I did my master in Switzerland, and we were capturing bats to try to find where they were hunting as well. And some of them were coming to hunt in Switzerland, but they were roosting 10K away in France. And that specific species, I found them all across the border, and we don't know why they were coming, because they have forests too. And they were roosting behind shutters, but we had houses with shutters too, but it didn't stay in Switzerland. They were going in France. So sometimes it's super hard to know why and what they do, but yeah, they have big territories. They can fly like really far, and some individuals tend to keep their own territories, and they call all, like, let's say that's their roost. They kind of all go little flower shape. They all have their little territory going from the roost to another area and back to the roost. Yeah, it's kind of. But they can fly a lot, but having all those, I would say, in a few kilometers around would be the best. Shelters, water, insects, source.
So I have a chimney that goes through our roof, and then there's the bats are coming under the
Cat, the ridge cat.
yeah,
Or the
the flashing. And so how many? And I know that I occasionally get, like every year, probably get one baby flying around the house. One.
Yeah.
So how many bats do you think there are?
Oh, that is very hard to say. Depends where they are going and how much space there is where they're staying and to access to a living area. I don't know if they come, you know,
They can
through.
They can kind of.
They can come through?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But they don't normally.
Yeah.
It's just like,
It's hard to say, but you can try to count.
okay.
Half an hour after sunset, you just try to check around your chimney and see how many you see flying out.
Okay. I'll have to stand on the neighbor's roof.
Oh, is that, yes, I yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's not easy to find the spots to actually see where they're coming out. Yeah, it's hard to say, but if each year you have one, like coming inside, it could be youngs, like most of the time when I have calls in the July, bats flying inside, they're mostly youngs, just learning to fly. But they're hard to say it's youngs just by seeing them. They have the same size. Once they start flying, they're basically adult size. But there's a way to have them in hand, which you wouldn't because you're fishing bats, to say it's a young or not. But yeah, most of the time inside houses, they're youngs, learning to fly, and I guess more curious or getting
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah, and they stop and look at us. They're pretty cute.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, let's do a big round of applause. Thank you so much. We've helped Kootenay Coordinator for quite a while to make this happen. Been so excited to have this experience. Thank you so much. So if you guys don't have any other questions for Elodie, then the last task for you guys to do is help us clear out the snack trays that we have. So if you guys want to have any of those, help us out big time. And otherwise, thank you, Elodie, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.